Hello and welcome to the very first episode of KO with Kyle. I'm your host, Kyle. In tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about the upcoming, this Saturday, August 1st, UFC Fight Night. It's in Las Vegas and available to everybody on ESPN+. This podcast, we're going to be talking about UFC, its fighters, the different weight classes, matchups, the upcoming fights, and their fighters' previous fights, about the Vegas odds, and we're going to be doing a forecast episode prior to each UFC event, and we're also going to be doing a recap episode, just kind of describing how it went down, who stood out, who was the fight of the night, and upcoming events and everything like that. So thanks so much, and without further ado, let's get into it. This episode we'll be talking about August 1st's fight night. We got 5 fights on the main card. There are some prelim fights. I haven't looked over it too much. I know Reg Borg is fighting on the prelims, and there's another prelim fight I'll get into a little bit. But let's start off the main card with Kevin Holland versus Trevin Giles. This is at 185, and Kevin Holland is coming off of a win, a TKO victory against Anthony Hernandez. Trevin Giles also coming off of a victory, a split decision against James Krause. So this one should be pretty exciting. Both guys have wins. They both have a lot to prove. They both have, some wins and losses on their career, so they aren't at the top of the title contention, or they're not ranked real high yet at 185, but whoever wins this fight will definitely probably get pretty good rank. It says Kevin Holland won on the Contender Series, Dana White's Contender Series, but he wasn't offered a contract at the time. Sometimes Dana White just chooses to do that to guys. And also, for this fight, Kevin Holland is a replacement for Jun Young Park, who was not able to make it due to travel issues. So Trevin Giles was coming off of a fight of the night and a split decision victory versus James Krause. So that one was really good, and hopefully this one will be a banger too. And both these guys have fought Gerald Meerschaert, not sure how to pronounce it, at 185. Kevin Holland had a win over him in a split decision, and Trevin Giles actually lost to him. He got submitted. But Gerald himself is moving up to light heavyweight from 185, and he's going to face Ed Herman, who's literally been doing it forever, for years. So this should be a good fight to start off the card. Could be really big. Some of these wins from Giles were KOs. Some of these wins from Kevin Holland, TKO, unanimous decision, submission. So it has all the makings for a fight of the night right off the bat. So that one's really exciting. And the favorite on this card for this fight, is Kevin Holland at a minus 200. So if you want to bet on a dog, Trevin Giles is not too much out of reach for this one, so might want to consider that. But we'll move on to the next fight. We got Lando Venata versus Bobby Green, and this one's at 155. And Lando Venata, he's coming off of a win against Yancy Medeiros, unanimous decision victory. And Bobby Green is also coming off of a unanimous decision victory against Clay Guida. So these guys both coming off wins. Again, they got a lot to prove in this weight class and want to move up and get a higher rank. Kind of set up just like the first fight. And in this one, the interesting thing about this fight, I didn't mention it right off the bat, but this is actually a rematch. These guys have fought before and it went to a draw. And in that fight, Lando Venata was deducted 1 point from an illegal knee. But it was a fight of the night and it went to a draw, so they're throwing it back on this card a couple, years later, but it's, pretty exciting. Each guy has had Venata had a draw. He had 2 wins and a loss. Bobby Green had a couple losses, couple wins. So we'll see what happens in this one, but it'll be super exciting. Lando Venata just has an amazing career. His first fight, he came in 2 weeks' notice to fill in and fight against Tony Ferguson. Almost knocks out Tony Ferguson. Fight goes on, ends up losing the fight, but it was a fight of the night. And so, yeah, Lando Venata is just a really exciting fighter. Who knows what's going to happen with him. Another thing that's interesting about this one with Bobby Green, sadly, in Dana White's eyes, Bobby Green has left it in the judges' hands 9 out of 10 last fights. So, I don't know if he's just not a jiu-jitsu expert, he's not tapping guys, he's not a striking expert like Justin Gaethje, he's not finishing fights or KOing guys. So, all his wins and losses have been unanimous decisions. So maybe you could bet on this fight going to decision too. It's just kind of the history, the story of Bobby Green. And their last fight also went to decision. So it's not a bad bet for this one. The Vegas odds have Lando Venata at the slight favorite. But it's really close. So, I don't know. It's almost even money. Another thing I want to note about Bobby Green is that he lost to Dustin Poirier and Edson Barbosa early in his career. Lost to Trinaldo and Drakkar Klose more recently in decisions. So, just some of the more top guys he's had trouble with. Venata went up against Tony Ferguson, one of the very top guys in his prime, and did very well. So, he was winning the first fight, except for the illegal knee. He is the favorite on this one. I would bet Venata takes this one. Hopefully he can do it without having to go to the judges. But that's not a bad bet, too, knowing Bobby Green's history. So, moving on. Next fight is at 170. And this fight is between Vicente Luque and Randy Rudeboy Brown. Vicente Luque, he just had an amazing fight against Nico Price. He won. It was a TKO victory. I'm pretty sure it was a doctor stoppage. There was so much damage in that fight. Randy Rudeboy Brown is coming off of a submission victory against Warley Alves. I had to look that up. I'm a big fan, and I'm not sure who Warley Alves is, but I'll have to look into that a little bit more. But, yeah, 170. These guys are really. Vicente Luque is a hell of a boxer. Randy Rudeboy Brown, he likes to throw down as well. He's got a submission victory, a couple TKO victories. Both these guys actually have fought Brian Barberena. Both have wins over him by TKO. And I just want to say about Luque, his wins are KO, TKO, submission, 2 fight of the nights. He's 11-3 in his UFC bouts. He has losses to Wonderboy Thompson and Leon Edwards. So, I mean, just some of the top guys in the weight class. He's won 5 of his last 6, except for the unanimous decision loss against Wonderboy Thompson. Just couldn't get it done. Vicente Luque, otherwise, though, has TKO'd Krantz. He TKO'd Nico Price. He got a split decision victory over Mike Perry, TKO Barberena. So he's just putting guys out left and right. Brown's victory is also by TKO and submission, pretty exciting himself. Both with mostly win streaks. Rudeboy Brown's coming off of 2 wins, and Vicente Luque is coming off of 5 of 6, but only 1 of his last 2 fights. But Brown, when he fought Nico Price, he lost. It was a really weird incident. He was actually on top doing some damage. He had him on the ground, on the mat, whatever reason, Nico Price got the right angle and just started landing these hammer fists on his face just over and over, and actually knocked him out. Randy Rudeboy Brown was like knocked out from the bottom. So that was just an interesting thing to note about his history. So in this one, Vicente Luque is a Vegas favorite, -180. I think it's kind of a safe bet, even though Rudeboy is coming off of two impressive wins against Barberena and Worley Alves. But nonetheless, I still think Vicente Luque gets it done. He's just too good of a boxer. He's been against the top guys. He does pretty well against everybody. 5 of his last 6, 11 and 3. Vicente Luque is just who I'm going with on this one. But if you want a dog, I wouldn't be surprised with Randy Rudeboy Brown coming off of 2 wins as well. Next fight we got is the co-main, the female fight. Joanne Calderwood versus Jennifer Maia. This one's at 125. And Joanne Calderwood is coming off of a victory, a split decision victory against Lee. And Jennifer Maia is actually coming off of a loss. It was a unanimous decision against Chukagian. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce that one, Chukagian. And Calderwood also, her second till recent fight, she lost also to Chukagian in a unanimous decision. But she's 3 for her last 4. She beat Faria by submission. She beat Lipsky in unanimous decision. Again, she lost to Chukagian, but then she beat Lee. So Calderwood is 3 for her last 4 going into this one. Jennifer Maia is 2-2 in her last 4 fights. She lost a decision against Liz Carmouche, and then she won against Davis and Medaffery, and then lost against Chukagian. But Calderwood was on tough. She made it to the semis, and she lost to Rose Namajunas. She has losses in the UFC against Cynthia Calvillo, Jessica Andrade, and Chukagian. Mostly losing decisions against these top fighters. So still pretty close. Calderwood is a former Muay Thai champ and Invicta fighter. And Jennifer Maia is a former boxer who transitioned into MMA. She's a Brazilian boxer who turned into MMA, and she's a former Invicta flyweight champ herself. So she's been a champ. I mean, has all the markings to win this one. The interesting thing about her is that she missed weight twice in a row in her fights against Medaffery and Chukagian, so I really hope she doesn't miss weight on this one. It would be rough. I know that doesn't look good in Dana's eyes, and I can't believe that Vegas has her as the underdog in this one. That Vegas has Calderwood as the favorite, a -180. Jennifer Maia, her last 4 fights, 2 wins, 2 losses, but they were all 4 unanimous decision. Calderwood's last 4 fights, 3 of the 4 were decision, and 1 of them was a submission. So a safe bet on this one might be that it goes long, that it goes more than 2.5 rounds or whatever it is. You might want to bet that this one goes to a decision. You could bet on an underdog too, on Jennifer Maia, because they have Calderwood as the favorite here. But we'll see. I mean, Jennifer Maia, former champ, I'm sure she wants to prove herself in the UFC. Calderwood is 3 of her last 4, so she's really making a name for herself. She'll probably get a big fight if she wins this one. So it's just kind of the name of the card, is like everybody on this card is fighting for top 10 rank in their weight class. They're fighting to make a name for themselves, to have a big finish. And it's just set up so that maybe every fight on the card, and I'm not we'll all go down that way, but maybe every fight on the card will be a really exciting finish, and then we'll have a decisive moving up in the ranks at all these different weight classes. So, moving on to the main event, it is Derek Brunson at 185 versus the undefeated Edmund Shahbazyan. And this fight's awesome. Derek Brunson's coming off of 2 wins. Most recently his win against Ian Heinisch, who is a tough customer. It was a unanimous decision for Brunson. And Shahbazyan himself is coming off of a win against Brad Tavares, another tough customer, and that was a KO. So, Brunson, he had another win. He's coming off of 2 wins. Like I said, one of them was against Theodoro. That was another unanimous decision. So, he's coming off of 2 wins. He wants to make a name for himself at the weight class. And Shahbazyan is undefeated. He's slowly making a name for himself at the weight class. If he wins this one, it's definitely going to be a big mark. And if Brunson loses this one, it's only because he's fought the who's who at 185 and unfortunately lost against a lot of the top names. He lost against Adesanya, he lost against Robert Whittaker, against Yoel Romero, and even lost a decision against the Spider Anderson Silva. So if he were to lose against Shahbazyan, who knows, maybe that means Shahbazyan's another one of these top guys at 185 to look out for, but we will see. Coming off of 2 wins, I would definitely not want to bet against Brunson, even though they have it as like a sure lock that Shahbazyan is going to be the favorite in this one. Brunson has 2 fight of the nights when he fought Yoel Romero and Robert Whittaker. Shahbazyan was on the season 2 of the Contender Series, and he won with a 40-second TKO, and he was offered a contract. He's fought lesser names, but he's had really impressive wins, and he's undefeated. And he was in the camp with Ronda Rousey, so he's trained with some good people, and he's been doing it for a lot of years, just growing up with it, and he looks really strong. He's got a split decision victory against Stewart, a TKO victory against Bird, a submission against Jack Marshman, and then the KO against Brad Tavares. So just, he wins in different ways. He wins in exciting ways. He hasn't lost. He's going up against a really tough customer who's coming off of 2 wins, so it should be exciting. Derek Brunson just said on his Instagram, or one of his social media, that he signed a 6-fight deal, and this would be, I believe, the first fight of the 6 fights. So Vegas has Shahbazyan as the minus 320 underdog. He is the safe bet to win this one. I would probably go with Shahbazyan. Myself, I'm not sure how it is going to finish. I think he might get him on the ground and submit him. But also it could be a TKO. Brunson has been finished by TKO by just like knees and punches before, by Adesanya and by Jacare Souza. So could just be a flurry of strikes finishes this fight, but we will see. It's going to be an awesome one. Thank you all for tuning in. This is my very first episode, so bear with me. It's going to get better. I plan to research the fights better, talk more about their fighting styles and about some of the highlights in their previous fights. But some of these guys on the card are a little bit harder to research. Most of their fights previously have been on prelims or early prelims, and it's just kind of hard going back through my UFC library to find that without having Fight Pass, which I do plan to get. But thank you all for listening. I will do a recap after this event, and we will talk about who stood out, who, like we said, is going to move up in the ranks, who's going to get the top 10 placement, and who's going to look good in their weight class. We wish Gerald well in his move up to light heavyweight against Ed Herman and the prelims, and we wish Ray Borg well. Sorry against his opponent, I'm just favored against Ray Borg. And anyways, yeah, tune in next week and we will have the recap. Thank you all. Peace.